Happy Halloween. Just kidding. It's not Halloween. But almost, so close enough. I'm gonna be doing another Squishy Makeover episode. It's going to be creepy and cute. Creepy cute. That's usually the style I go for. So I guess today's just an extension of that. Just another day on the dark side. You guys probably already know this, but in case you've been living under a rock, my Squishy Makeovers are always inspired by Moriah Elizabeth. A lot of the stuff on my channel was inspired by Moriah, as some of you guys may have noticed. Those are some sharp eyes you got there. Alright, so. First things first, I pulled out this little blob unicorn rainbow squishy. It's pretty round and a little lumpy. Disgusting. I actually found this one at the dollar store. In fact, I found a whole bunch of weird squishies at the dollar store recently. I wasn't exactly sure what this one's supposed to be. What are you? At the time, I didn't even know what I'd do with it, but it was only $1, so of course I took it. Turns out, I do have some ideas for it. I'm gonna start by cutting off its ears and horn. Won't be needing those. I then roughed it up a little, and then it turns out she does need ears, I guess, so I picked some out for him. You're welcome. Bats normally have some pretty huge ears. Oh, by the way, I'm turning this into a bat. I guess I should have mentioned that. So yeah, about the ears. I just picked a couple out of the squishy amputation box. These were the biggest I could find, and I think they'll do the trick, so I just hot glued them on. One thing I didn't find in the box were wings. Bats normally have wings, so that's a little bit of a problem. I thought about just painting the wings like folded in, but I guess that would be a little lazy, so instead I pulled out the memory foam. I find things stick better onto the squishies when I expose some of the flesh underneath. So I cut up a bit of the sides to create some texture that the wings could stick to, and hot glued those on. Now that the bat has all his limbs, it's finally ready for some paint. I mixed some soft matte paint with some slick paint and used that for a nice, clean white base coat. I'm not worrying about the wings quite yet, I'll come back to those. I mixed up a very baby blue kind of color for the bat. He was starting to look very innocent and gross, sweet, hideous, and everything he's not supposed to be. I'm gonna puke. I'm trying to be evil here. And this little cloud marshmallow isn't really helping my cause. But still I continued. I worked on the wings a bit. The thing about memory foam is that it literally just drinks the paint. It requires a whole lot of paint to fill in the holes. Things would go really slow with a paintbrush, so instead I'm resorting to painting with a popsicle stick. It's kinda like icing a cake, except not quite. It's just faster to layer on the paint with the popsicle stick. The wings aren't actually supposed to be white. I wanted them to be the same sweet little baby blue color as the rest of the bat. Now here's where things became a bit of a huge mess. I gave it a very plain look. Zero personality. Not only that, but at this point I did realize that the squishy's feet bumps are off center. I tried painting some on a little more to the right, but it just didn't matter. I hated it. I just hated everything about it. I hate it. I wasn't about to have another flopsy, so I tried again. Blank slate. I just painted everything black. I wanted to go with a different kind of style for this one than I usually do. I usually don't give characters kawaii anime eyes. It's just not my thing. But I figured I'd just try something a little different for this one, since it can't be worse than it was before. I actually think he ended up looking pretty spooky. Boo! Scared you, didn't I? Probably the most traditionally spooky thing I've made on the channel. He almost looks like some sort of Pokemon to me.
Who's that Pokemon?
Potato bat. I think I got his feet pretty centered now. Not entirely sure why they're like that. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that I found this guy at the dollar store next to this thing. But we're not even gonna try to fix that atrocity today. Instead, I pulled out your friendly neighborhood Bumblebee boy. Bumblebee boy. Yay. I ordered him off AliExpress like 3 months ago, and then he just randomly showed up like a week ago. Bit of a wait time. I'm happy he showed up though, because I figured he'd make a great Halloween squishy, because he's already got a costume on. Not a huge fan of the whole Bumblebee look, especially the antennas. Those have got to go. That's disturbing. He has these huge eyes that are raised, so I did have to keep those in mind and work with those as best as I could. I did amputate his antennas as well as his wings though. I didn't completely chop off the wings. I left some little bumps in the back. It just looked like his butt, so I figured I wouldn't want to rob him of his dump truck. Speaking of butts, Sniffledorf has decided to butt in and slap some sense into Bumblebee Boy. If you're new here and you don't want to face the ire of Sniffledorf, you should consider selling your soul to me by subscribing to my channel and ringing that bell thing so you don't lose me on the internet. I post new videos every Friday. I then exfoliated the squishy to help the paint stick better and painted him completely white. My idea for this squishy is that he's going to be wearing a Halloween costume. I figured Nightmare Before Christmas is a Halloween classic, so what better costume than Jack Skellington? He already has the big eyes and round head, so it's just perfect. I'm just painting his suit black for now. I'll be adding the pinstripes later on. I then turned my attention to the boy inside the costume. He had a very plain smile, reminded me of the light blue marshmallow bat. I didn't want him to be so boring, so instead he's gonna be crazy. Absolutely bonkers. I sketched out his face in pencil. This face might look a bit familiar, or at least it should. It's the same guy I painted on the sleeping mask in my first dollar store makeover. I never gave him a name, and never even thought he'd show up again, to be honest. Oh. Hi again, Sniffledorf. But I think he'd be perfect, because this squishy boy has a little bump on his forehead for his hair, and the sleeping mask guy also has hair up top too, so you see, there's a lot in common. I can't really explain why he looks so crazy. Perhaps it's a sugar rush from all the candy he snatched from the kids that showed up at his house. On the dark side, we do reverse trick-or-treating. Work smarter, not harder. Although it's a huge head, there's not really much space for Jack Skellington's mouth or anything. I guess he's kind of inside the mouth, so I just added in the sides of his smile. I almost forgot the drool on my guy. He just wouldn't be the same without it. So the pinstripes on the suit. Kinda hard to do on this squishy. The squishy has a huge head but a really tiny body. Not the easiest thing to do a whole lot of detail on the little body, but I wanted to at least get the idea. So I added some stripes to the suit. Left the pants plain black though. I wasn't about to mess with those little stubs. No. Up next we've got a calico cat. To be more specific, it's a cutie pazootie calico cat. A collectible.
How exciting.
And by the looks of them, I don't want to collect the rest. I'm scared. Now you might think that I'll turn this cat into Sniffledorf, which would be a cool idea, but I just did a whole video starring him and his tea party, which he didn't even appreciate. So no, it's not gonna be Sniffledorf. It is, however, gonna be another bat. I felt like the first one could use a friend. Now this isn't really gonna be a bat, it's more like someone wanting to be a bat, a wannabe of sorts. You'll see. In the past I've done a lot of voodoo style characters, like little voodoo bears and voodoo dolls with buttons and stitches and all that stuff. I really like the look of them and you guys seem to like them too. I haven't made one in a long time, so I figured I'd make another voodoo creature today. Once it's all sanded and painted white, I made some incisions on his back and hot glued some memory foam wings onto there. My idea was that he was like half alive and half sewn together, if that makes sense. That probably doesn't make sense, but whatever. Moving on. I'm using that same light blue color that I originally used for the first bat. I just didn't want to waste the rest of it, so I'm trying really hard to make it work. He has one normal eye, and the other eye is a button. I guess he lost one eye at some point.
Ow.
He kind of looks like a cyborg right now, but he won't in a second. There. Now it's a button. What creepy voodoo monstrosity would be complete without a happy little smile? Of course he won't be a voodoo doll without stitches, so I decided to start adding those in. Usually I try to stick with 1 or 2 contrasting colors for these voodoo doll things because I just find if you start adding too many colors onto them, it just ends up looking like a rainbow of pile poop. A pile of rainbow poop. The only stitches that aren't going to be red are the stitches going through his little eye button. I also went ahead and added some very lively looking eye shines into his one good eye.
Look alive, buddy.
I had the idea to try and make some stuffing bursting out of his stomach. Not the best idea I've had. I've drawn this a ton of times before, but never attempted to recreate the look on a squishy. I started by kind of outlining where I wanted the seams to be with some red paint, but something about it just didn't look right to me. I went back and put some slick paint on there for the stuffing and then tried re-outlining the seams with some more red paint straight out of the bottle. I'm not really sure I'm sold on this look, to be honest. It kind of looks like he's got a tattoo of DNA running down his entire torso for some reason.
Should have thought that one through.
If you squint your eyes hard enough, you might confuse them for stitches. All in all, I'm pretty happy with how these squishies turned out. The two bats look like they're from completely different dimensions. How they became friends, I have no idea. Today's squishies are not your typical Halloween colors, but costumes and bats are pretty Halloween-y, I'd say.
The kids are starting to make their rounds. Click on the top right or bottom left if you want me to share my reverse trick-or-treating bounty with you this year.